Hi everyone. So today's question is, if you could live forever, or you could live for hundreds of years, would that be a good thing? A few years ago in Aish UK in London, we ran a series called Futures. And one of the most incredible, tantalizing speakers we had was a man named Aubrey De Grey. When you see him, if you don't know him already, you may know that you've seen him from somewhere. He is has got this most incredibly beautiful long beard, looks like something like a wizard or sage of a different era. But he's most famous because he's been the most articulate and outspoken spokesperson for the idea that we can end aging. And the implication of that is we can delay death, perhaps indefinitely. He also claims that we're not far from the ability to actually see that happening. But let's go inside and see a clip of what he says about the fight against aging.
I think that it is extremely likely that people born today will, on average, live to 1,000. I think there's at least a 50-50 chance that your average person who's 30 years old today will live to 1,000.
Now, that sounds completely outrageous. He's going to justify it in a minute, but the first thought that comes to so many people's heads when they see comments like this is, oh my goodness, living to 1,000 will be a disaster. But that's because they're thinking of being like a 95-year-old or 99-year-old or 100-year-old or very, very old person for hundreds and hundreds of years. He's talking about something very different. He's talking about living like a 20-year-old till 1,000. Now, some of you have asked on this video, does that contradict Jewish ideas of living to 120? The Bible, the Torah seems to say man will live to 120. The short answer is no, but before we get into it, let's explore this staggering idea and what exactly he means by it.
But not because we are within a couple of decades of completely being able to repair all damage, only because we're within a couple of decades, with reasonable probability, of course, of getting to this Methuselarity point where we're staying one step ahead of the problem.
Okay, now what he means by this Methuselarity point, obviously after the biblical Methuselah, Methuselah, is that if you can create a situation where you can extend healthy life by 30 years, then during those 30 years you'll make more technological innovations and medical innovations and healthy body innovations that could then extend for another 50 years. And before you hit that 50-year mark where you'd begin the decline, you'll already have made another bunch of innovations that pushed you forward another 100 years. And so you're always staying ahead of the point. If technology takes you to this point where your decline would be here, but before you get there, there'll be a new technological break that pushes you there, then you can live for many, 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 many decades and centuries even. His logic, by the way, is that the reason bodies age and the reason brains age and the reason for things we call diseases in old age, but that exclusively old age like Parkinson's and so on, is because the cells, as they reproduce more and more and more, get more and more damaged. And you don't have fresh and healthy cells, you have more and more damage going on. So the joints are getting damaged and the cartilage is getting damaged and the brain connections are getting damaged, and problems begin in movement, in health, in bodily functioning, in brain functioning. But if a young person, let's say a teenager, their body's putting so much fresh energetic cells, adding so many new good ones in that it's just overwhelming the damaged ones and keeping a healthy young body. If you could do that by inserting healthy cells all over human body, then you could keep it young and fresh like a teenager pretty much, or like a 20-year-old for many, many, many decades and many, many, many centuries and who knows how long. That's what he's saying. Now, the technological side we will leave to experts like him, but the theological side, the philosophical side, let's deal with this. Is it good? Is it bad? You hear people say, oh my goodness, this would be terrible. I don't want to live that long. I'd live without all my friends. Well, hopefully, first of all one's friends would also be living that long, and family members too. It could have all sorts of fascinating ramifications. If people are that young, that healthily, what age would they want to have children? How many children would they want to have? How spaced out? You could have a child 300 years later or whatever. If people aren't really dying much, what would happen to overpopulation? Questions like this become very, very interesting. Some argue, Yuval Noah Harari argues, for example, that human fear may increase significantly, because right now if you cross a road, there's a tiny chance you might die, but against that risk, since you're going to die anyway, you'll take a certain tiny level of risk. What happens if it's possible that there's no natural death point? Then maybe you take no risks. I actually think it's not true, because we'll be mitigating against all sorts of risks and so on. But from a Jewish perspective, what about the afterlife? What about all of this? And I think we have to remember that one of the point is that death in the Torah is a result of sin. It's not ideal. The ideal state of humanity is that we don't die, that we don't get ill. There is no more illness. Ultimately, the resurrection of the dead, which maybe I'll talk about in another video. Many of these things that once seemed so crazy and so beyond science fiction, like just bizarre, just seem like these unrealistic ideas of ancient texts, today look like they're either on the horizon of technology or they're not far beyond it. And I think this is one of them. There's others, and I talk about others in other videos, artificial intelligence, super minds, and so on. But the Jewish dream is of the perfection of this world and the perfection of humanity within this world, and the end of the curse that by the sweat of your brow you got to pull out bread. And if technology delivers us, then that's the tool God could use for that. The end of the curse of death, the end of the curse of illness, the end of the curse of all the things that we've been praying for thousands of years for the end of. If one piece of this puzzle is exactly this, that within the secrets of the world is the ability to do this to the human body, then this is something to be celebrated and to become excited about. Now, of course, everything that involves the development of humanity comes with a moral demand on us. Can we prepare a world for this? Can we elevate to a level where we'll be around so long that, what will happen to humans when we're around? Will people become so lazy because we're motivated by the shortness of life to get so much done? Or will we just become people who can accumulate so much over life, accumulate unfathomable amounts of wisdom, knowledge, and so on? Let's see as that comes. But I actually think this is incredibly exciting, like other technological tools, that we don't live in this world for life after death. We live in this world for life after life as we know it. We live in this world to see this world, to see humanity and all of nature become perfected. We live in this world to see the elimination of all the things that plague us for now, and eventually bring back all who lived into this Garden of Eden on earth. This sounds like science fiction, but it isn't science fiction. It's part of the incredible age that we happen to be blessed to live within. Could this not be exactly what the prophets say? Bila hamavet lenetzach, that death will be gone forever. Mach Hashem Elokim dimama, that Hashem God will wipe the tears of all of humanity. Could it be that we're a generation that's going to actually see this, live through it, and be a part of it? Now, some ask, but 1 second, isn't this all meant to happen because we deserve it and because we're bringing godliness into the world? Yes, God can be delivering tools, showing us that in the tantalizing edge horizon of technology lies this incredible possibility. But if we as a humanity, as technology grows, tear each other apart, that could be a catastrophic end. We have to morally and spiritually rise to the occasion, to be ready to use all this for the good. A body that can live forever is a vessel that could embrace eternity and perfection. That creates a moral responsibility, a spiritual responsibility on us to rise it. But that's probably for another talk. Right now, I just want to leave us with this incredible thought that we could be that generation that for thousands of years our ancestors prayed for. That's something worth being very excited about. Hi everyone, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please click on the like and subscribe and hit the notification button below. Thanks so much.